All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. Thank you guys for coming, especially on a Wednesday. I know a lot of people are currently dealing with snow. I'm in Dallas, and we have quite a bit of snow, um, and have for the last couple of days. My name is Nick Hoover. At Boddle, I am the teacher and parent success manager. So if you guys ever reach out to Boddle, you're having a problem, you want to learn more about it, I'm the person that you guys will reach out to. Our biggest thing is making sure we offer as much help as possible. We have lots of videos, anything you need. We have a chat. We want to be able to help you guys. So that might be where you interact with me if you need any sort of support once you've come on board. So the schedule for today is that I'm going to go over Boddle for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to talk to Shawn. Shawn is one of our top Boddle users with his kids. He has been with Boddle since the very beginning. He's seen it grow. He's seen it change. And we're going to ask him some questions about how he might utilize that in his classroom. So for those who don't know anything about Boddle, Boddle's a math program. It's for K through 6th grade. What I'd say, I have a background in education. What I would say would be the sort of the key components that make it great is that it's very engaging. The kids love it. All the feedback we ever receive back from kids is how engaging it is. The other thing is that I also feel like it has really quality questions. And the biggest thing that I think teachers like is you can create assignments. So let's say, for example, you're teaching fractions and you want to give your kids in the game an assignment about fractions. You're able to easily do that. I'm going to show you guys that for just a sec. But I think that's one of the biggest benefits is that you can change the curriculum in the game to match whatever you're teaching at the moment. Now, let's say you don't want to do that. You're not needing that at the moment. The great thing about Boddle is that it has an AI that goes through and judges and says, hey, these kids are struggling with these questions. Let's give them different questions that maybe are a little bit harder or a little bit easier. So as far as setup goes, your kids, you put your kids in there, they get started. You don't have to do anything special for them. They can just get started and the game will automatically start placing them where they need to place. So if you didn't hear me earlier, our main website is boddlelearning.com. So your students can go to boddlelearning.com to log in. You as a parent or a teacher would go to boddlelearning.com to log in over here on the side. The other place that your students can go to is play.boddlelearning.com. And the other thing I'm excited to announce is just last week, we officially rolled out our app in the App Store. So if any of your kids are using iOS devices, if you'd like for them to use it at home, I'll make sure when I email you guys after this webinar that I send you the link for the App Store as well, so your kids can download that, and then they're able to play on any iOS device as well. So that's a nice part of it. So for Boddle, the two big things are, of course, the game and then the teacher admin panel. So I'm going to start with our game. So if you look here, once your kids log in, they'll have a Boddle character. They'll be able to design their character just like most games like this. They would get to pick out clothes and hats and gain points so that they're able to do that. So this would be the Boddle character. And then all they have to do for them to get started on the game, and the first time they log in, there will be a tutorial that pops up. It walks them through. It tells them how to do everything they need to do. They're going to click this green button, and that's all they need to do to get started. So then it's going to take them to the first round of questions. So the way that the questions work in Boddle is we have a 3-question system. So what will happen is that they're going to be given 3 questions. If they get all 3 questions correct, they get to play a short game afterwards. And so what we think is important about that is that it causes the kids to be very engaged. They want to get to that game, but they also want to get the question correct, which I think is really important. So they'll log in. They start getting questions right away as soon as they log into the program. We have things like they're able to click here and write if they need to show their work on something. Maybe they need to work out a math program. They can click here and have the problem read to them if they need be. And then also down here, they're able to click and see a video that walks them through how to answer the question. So if maybe they're struggling, maybe they got it wrong and they want to try something else, they're able to click there and it walks them through a similar question on how to do it. So here, obviously a very simple question. You'll notice we built some anticipation. They're kind of waiting to see, did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? We think that really helps them get excited about figuring it out. So I got it right. As you can see, I've got one of my 3 working me towards my game. I answer again. For the record, this is a kindergarten level. Building up our anticipation. Got it right. We've got 2 down. And now let's say if you had given them an assignment, when they clicked that green button, it would have automatically taken them into the assignment. So if you wanted them to go directly into fractions, no matter where they were or what they were working on previously in the game, it'll take them directly into that assignment. So you don't need to worry that, oh, they have to get so far along in the game before I can give them an assignment on fractions or anything like that. How many eggs? These are kindergarten level questions. I think I said that. And then we see if we got our third question right. And we did. And so what it's going to do now is, because we got 3 correct, it's going to let us play our bonus game. The kids love the bonus games. I'm sure Shawn would agree with that. That's something they get super excited about. So in this example, this character has never played this game before, so it's walking me through what does that look like. And for this is our hamburger game. So what you have to do is you have to go through and create the hamburgers based on the design at the top. So then they go through there and they're able to do that. And then once they get their points, they go through the game. They have 45 seconds to do that. Once they finish the game, it's going to take them back and they're going to go through 3 more questions again. And then the next time they might get a game, we have a soccer game, we have a basketball game. So the games change each time when they go into it. So that's really a very fast overview of the kid version of it. So the next thing I want to show you is the teacher version. So the teacher version, you log in at boddlelearning.com and you get into your admin panel. It looks like this. I'll go to our main page. This is already in a classroom. So you'll log in. It's very simple. When you first create your account, it'll walk you through. You add a classroom. This person has 3 different classrooms. We're going to go into one. So once you've created your classroom, all you have to do is add your students. We have lots of ways for you to add students. So you're able to add them by importing them from Google Classroom. You can add them to the Excel that we have. We have another option called class code where you can give your students a code and it'll automatically add them to your class. That works really well if you have older students who might be able to do that. So you don't necessarily even have to put all of their information in. Right here we have a class code and you're able to give that to them, and when they go to log in, it'll ask them, do you have a class code? They'll put it in and it'll automatically add them to your class. As far as logins, once they're in there, you're able to print off their logins to either send home with them to use, for them to have in class so they don't forget. You guys are more than welcome to create your own. So I know for a lot of schools, they like to use maybe the lunch number for both the username and password, or maybe they already have a username and password they use for other programs. You're able to either choose that or you can just auto-generate it, and we're going to give you guys one. So that makes it very, very simple for you. As far as the curriculum, so you put them on a grade level, but let's say you have a student who might not be on that grade level, that they need to be moved down to, they're a 3rd grader who needs to go down to 2nd grade, or maybe they're a 3rd grader who really should be working on 4th grade. It's very simple for you to go in and change which grade level and the material that they get. So that's another huge bonus. Over here on the side, we have something that's called a live feed. Now this is an actual classroom, but currently since school's out, there's not anyone on. But normally what we would have here is the student, what they're doing, their current session, and you would have in the moment information about what's going on with that student, what they're working on, how they're doing, how long they're spending on questions. You would have all of that here. It's just currently they're not in school, so they're not using it. The curriculum, so it is aligned. So, and you can go in and you can pick, computer's taking a moment, but you can go in and you can pick which standards you would like them to use. When you first sign up, if you're going to use Common Core or you're using something different, you can go in and pick that. And then if you want to go in here and look at the different standards, and what's nice is that it shows you what the questions will look like. I know that's always our question as teachers. Well, is this going to look like the way maybe the state asked me these questions or my test looks like? So you're able to go into the curriculum and see what those questions look like. Next up is the assignments. So I already talked to you guys about you're able to create assignments, which is very easy. You can create an assignment, and then right here you can track it. You can see who started it, where they're at, how well they're doing on it. You get to pick. It can either be however many questions you want, how long they have to do it. If you're going to say, hey, here's an assignment, you have the next 2 weeks to accomplish it, they can use the 2 weeks. You have full control over that. If you add the new assignment, you can see you just make a name for it. It automatically is just going to put today's date. But if you want to schedule it, like you want to work ahead and say, hey, in 2 weeks, I know I want to make sure I'm giving them assignments about fractions. So I'm going to make sure that I put in those dates. A calendar pops up. It lets you say for this time period, they can work on this. So you really could map out your whole next 6 weeks or semester of when your assignments roll out. So you do that. You can, of course, individualize who you give it to. And we're going to talk about the different reports. But what's nice is that you're able to get a report to say, these 3 kids are struggling in this area. And you can say, well, I'm going to assign those 3 kids that standard in an assignment so they can keep working on it, which is really nice. And we'll talk about that here in a moment. So we'll just say they're all going to get it. Here's where you pick the skill. So you're able to go in, pick which skills you'd like to add. I'll just pick that one. And then you're able to see here, can either be by the number of questions, so they have to complete 10 questions to be able to go through it, or maybe they have this period of time that they're able to work on it. So those are both options. They can either be random, the order of the questions. So maybe you put 2 different standards on there. Do you want them all together, or do you want it to be random, however many questions you want? And then I only had 1 standard, but if you had multiple standards, you could say, I want 6 of this standard and 6 of the next standard. So it's very, very simple. You hit submit, and it'll, depending on what you chose to do, either automatically they'll have the assignment ready to go, or it'll assign it to wherever you put it on the date. The last part, and I want to make sure I honor y'all's time and I get to Shawn, is the reports. So the report here of this class shows you overall how they're doing on the different areas of standards. What I think is the most helpful, when I was in the classroom, what I would have liked the most is the learning gaps report. So you can see right here, these are her actual students. So for example, Aaron is struggling with all 3 of these standards. He's in all 3 of the groups. What I would do is I would come down here on this standard and say, you know what, Aaron and Harley, I'm going to assign them an assignment that goes over adding within 1,000, or maybe I'm going to pull them into a small group. We're going to work through it together. While they work on it, I'm going to work with each of them individually so we can figure out what's going on, where are they struggling. So that's the benefit of this report, which is wonderful. The next report's usage, which is really great. That's great to track, especially if you're maybe an instructional coach on a campus. You're able to sort of see how everybody's doing, how often they're using the program. And then the timeline sort of shows you when did the students finish an assignment, start something, begin something, when did they log in, all of that information that you could possibly want. The other thing you can do is, if you go back to students, you are able to click and you can pick, let me go to the right. You're able to get notifications. So you're able to go in and get notifications in your email. So let's say you want to be notified every time one of your kids has a learning gap. The minute the program notices a learning gap, you can get an email sent to you that's going to let you know, hey, so-and-so is struggling with this immediately. Or maybe you're like, I don't need to know every single day when those come in, but once a week or once a month, I'd like a report on all the learning gaps. You can get it on their usage. Any area you'd like to have that report sent to you, you definitely can have it sent to you. So that's not a big deal at all. The other thing you can do is parents are able to create their own account. So parents can have their own account if their kids want to do it at school, but you can link the kid's account to the one that they're using at home. And then that parent can also receive those reports. So they could sign up and also be receiving those reports, which sort of cuts down on what you guys have to do. So that is a very fast, very quick overview of the program to kind of let you guys know what we're talking about. So now we're going to kind of transition over, and I have some questions that I want to ask Shawn. He's been using the program like he said. So just to sort of get started, Shawn, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you teach? How long have you been teaching? All of those things.
Sure. My name is Shawns Clippel. I teach 3rd grade at a charter school in the Kansas City metro area. I'm originally from Waterloo, Iowa. I have my undergrad degree in drama and theater for youth from the University of Northern Iowa. I traveled all over the Midwest working for different children's theaters, and then I finally landed in Kansas City where I got my master's from Rockhurst University in elementary education. And I have been teaching 3rd grade for 4 years at my charter, and am now working on my doctorate in education and leadership, also back at Rockhurst.
Very cool. All right. So tell us a bit about your class. What's the makeup of your class? What does it look like? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I teach third grade at a K-4 free public charter school in the Kansas City metro area. Our school offers 100% free lunch and snack, door-to-door transportation for all of our students, care team of clinical therapists, behavioral supports, family advocates. And in a typical school year, we have a 12-to-1 student to faculty ratio. So all of our classrooms have 2 licensed teachers to keep our ratios nice and small. My class in particular, it really depends when in the year you would have asked me this question. I started off with 8 in-person students, and then about second quarter, as cases were rising, we went full virtual. So then I had about 18 virtual students, and now I'm back in person with 8 in-person students and about 8 virtual students that I teach through Zoom all day.
Very cool. Well, that answered my next question. I was going to ask, are you teaching remote? Or are you teaching in person? A hybrid, what does that look like? So because you do have a hybrid, really, you have some kids at home and some kids with you. What does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, so like you said, I've done it all. We began in person doing away with our co-teaching teams, so we were able to social distance and have smaller class sizes. We also offered a virtual option that was just for those, and that was dedicated to just staff members who were leading that effort. And then we had some staff changes throughout the year, so I sort of took on some of those extra students. We have a morning and RTI time for about 8 to 9 in the morning. And then my virtual students join me from math from 9 to 10 on Zoom, and I record that lesson for them and then post it for them to rewatch if they're unable to join me live. And then we break for lunch and for specials, and then they come back around and join me for another 2 hours of ELA instruction, and then science or social studies at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And all 3 of those content areas are recorded and posted for them.
Oh, nice. Very cool. That's an interesting take that you do it live, but then you're able to, I'm sure that's a lot of work for you to get it posted right away, but so people can see it.
It has been an interesting year, that's for sure.
For sure. So at what point during your math class do you use Boddle? Is it your main instruction? Do you teach with the kids and then they go work on it? How do you use it, and in what time during the day?
Yeah, there is actually a few times in my day that I incorporate Boddle differently. We have an allotted 30 minutes in the morning for RTI time, which is a response to intervention. So I'm meeting with my Tier 3 students one-on-one for that 30 minutes. And then my Tier 1 and 2 students, I have them rotating through different online programs and enrichment activities. And one of those programs I rotate in is Boddle. So that's a great way to provide just extra practice for those Tier 1 and 2 students. Typically, this would be my centers or rotations time, but because we are so frequently bouncing back from in-person to virtual, I found that this was just the most accessible way for students and the most consistent. They don't need the materials at home. They just know I'm going to log into this program this day, this day, and all the assignments are modified for each student. And also just a note really quick, our students take an evaluate test each month, which is a comprehensive test over all grade level standards, and it's a great way to measure year-long growth. And we also use our math pacing to identify what skills they should have mastered by each test. So I use that data to form my assignments for students during that practice time in the morning.
So, and I know this wasn't one of our questions, but I wanted to ask, when you do that, do you see a change from one month to the next? So if you say, well, this kid's low in this area, so I'm going to give them an assignment in Boddle. When the next month rolls around, have you seen improvement in that area?
Yeah, so what's really great and what's important to note is that when I see that those skills may have been missed in a test, I don't immediately just assign them on Boddle. I will pull those kids, do a bit of reteaching, and then send them off to Boddle to practice. I won't just blindly give them an assignment on Boddle. I want to make sure that they are retaught that skill, and then they have an opportunity to apply that skill in Boddle. That's where you see the most growth. Just filling those little just moving those tier 2 kids up to tier 1, just those bubble kids, an opportunity to move up and advance.
Awesome. That is awesome how you do that. What would you say were your main challenges before Boddle, and how has Boddle helped? Which you sort of kind of just answered, but what sort of challenges did Boddle solve for you?
Yeah, sure. Like probably all teachers, I have tubs and tubs of flashcards and 1 and 2 step word problems, practice problems, all organized by skill and color coded and organized. And you would use those in rotations and centers for extra practice. But setting those materials up and organizing those groups, managing those rotations while you're working with a small group, is definitely beneficial to have that in-person sort of working and moving and up in that active learning structure, but it's also difficult. And Boddle has features where you can create assignments for students, mix those questions by standards like you were saying, so I can have 3 students practicing determining area and mixed operation word problems in elapsed time, while another group is working on fractions and subtracting within 1,000. So it's just a great way to meet all those different needs.
Awesome. So you've been, like I said, you've been with Boddle since the very beginning. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes and improvements and all sorts of additions to it. So what would you say are some features, because we're very big at Boddle, we're huge on feedback. What would you say would be some features you would like added to it that it doesn't currently have?
Yeah, I would have to echo your statement about your guys' value on reflection. I was working, like you said, I was working with Clarence those first few years, and a lot of those features that the teachers suggested, I now see in the program all the time. So kudos for sure. I haven't been on the student side in a while, so I'm not as familiar with that side anymore. But I would like to see more interactive questioning. For example, often on standardized testing, students will be tasked in not only just to solve, let's say, a division problem, but then physically grab and drop objects into, let's say, a plate of cookies. So 8 cookies, 2 plates, drag and drop how many go on each. I'm not sure if those features are there, but that's just another great way, another demonstration of knowledge and opportunity to apply a skill.
Yeah. I love that. And actually, that's on our list. That's really nice to hear, because we have heard that before, because really testing has sort of changed, and now a lot more of it is on the computer and less paper-based, and people have seen that. But that's really good to know. I'm going to tell our curriculum department that, because I think that would be good to start putting more of those questions, because we're hearing that more and more, especially now with remote learning. We're hearing like, hey, we really need them to practice this skill because the map test or this test has it, where you have to physically do something. So thank you. That's really good feedback. I'm definitely going to be passing that along and sharing. Would you have any, I'm sorry. What do your kids say about Boddle? That's important.
Yeah, that's probably the most important.
Right.
And like you were saying earlier, it's just so engaging, and they really just love to get on Boddle. They often ask to get on. They get on. It's a common selection for indoor recess. They ask if they can get on once their work is done.
Wow.
And they love to include me. They say, Mr. Klippel, will you please come over and look at this thing that I achieved? And I've used lots of engaging programs in the past. I've used Prodigy, and those are all great. But Boddle just feels so manageable. It feels intentional, and it's also still engaging, but it's like the right level of engagement. And their support team is really fantastic. So if a student or a teacher ever encounters an issue, they're on top of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear, because that's definitely our goal. We're definitely trying to find that nice mix of engagement, but it's also rigorous enough, and the questions are rigorous enough. That's always what we're aiming for. So that's awesome to hear. Is there any other programs besides Boddle that you would suggest to everybody here that you really like, another program that you use that you might suggest to the other teachers?
Sure. Like I said, I teach 3rd grade, and we at our school, like all schools, during the health crisis, have been tasked to stay on pacing, to continue rigorous academics. We're still accountable at the end of the year for student performance, and often you're charged with continuing to use the curriculum resources that you would use in person. We use Engage Eureka Math and CKL Amplify reading. So my co-teacher and I used to be my co-teacher. I still call her my co-teacher. We organized and made lessons and assignments and resources available through a Google site.
Mm.
So all of my students have there's a tab for my classroom and her classroom, and a contact us page that has live links to get a hold of us, and quick links for things like Boddle and all those.
Mm-hmm.
And we have our weekly assignments and lessons hyperlinked throughout. So they just need to click on the website, find their class, and then just follow their schedule. So that's been really great. So Google Sites, I think, is really accessible for students in a way sometimes that Google Classroom is not. Also, for math, I really like Reflex Math for fluency, Raz Plus for ELA, Amplify Reading. I'm not sure if this is part of a paid curriculum resource, but it's really, really good. And then just Strictly Engaging, there's a one that I just learned about called Blooket, Blooket, which is sort of a spin on Kahoot, in that like the students are answering questions, but it's also more interactive, and the students can play with each other, and that one's strictly engaging, but it's still pretty fun.
Hey, after what, 9-10 months of online, they need whatever's engaging enough to keep them going and answering and turning on their camera. I have 2 more questions for Shawn. If you guys have any questions about Boddle or for Shawn, since he's been using it, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we can ask him those. My next question is, which I feel like you've sort of already answered this. How has Boddle helped your students grow in math, and has it helped them be more successful in math, which you sort of already answered?
Yeah, so as teachers, the goal is always to help students create understanding of concepts and skills, to be able to apply myriad skills and subject matter to greater, more essential ideas. So Boddle is just another tool for students to practice applying their learning to different situations. And especially in 3rd grade, there's so many critical math skills and concepts taught. Boddle is just a great way to continue to sharpen previously taught skills that teachers often worry that students might lose from quarter 1, quarter 2. You can create those personalized assignments to make sure that those students are still engaging with that content. And most importantly, probably, I think building a student's confidence in a subject, or just creating a positive experience with a skill or with content, is crucial for student success. And I think this happens when you know your students and you provide them with individual opportunities for success that they might not always get during whole group instruction. And Boddle does that. I think that I know my students love to get on Boddle. They love to get out their whiteboard. They really work at the problems, and they have ownership over their math. So having that positive experience and success translates over to confidence in the whole group instruction experience.
That's awesome. Awesome, man. That is really great to hear. And really, you've sort of already answered my last question, which was about, just because you've been with Boddle for so long, the evolution of Boddle, and what changes have you seen? But you've already said, you've seen a lot of changes implemented that the teachers recommended at the very beginning. But hopefully you've seen it in a positive evolution of what's been added and growing.
Yeah, I've definitely seen huge growth. I mean, I remember maybe this was a year or 2, you could only assign one standard, and then as of recently, now the most exciting feature for me is that I can mix standards in an assignment, and that's, I think, relatively new, at least within the past year or 2. So yeah, they do an excellent job.
Awesome.
Listening to feedback and applying it.
Yes, we are very big on feedback, especially me, because I'm usually the person who gets that email. I love to hear it. As a teacher, I love to hear it. That's what drew me to Boddle. I thought, man, everything I would have recommended to this company, they've already implemented because they've listened to teacher feedback. Those are all my questions. Obviously, thank you so much. That was awesome. It doesn't look like anyone else has any other questions. If you have any questions about Boddle, you're interested in learning more, feel free to email me at nick@boddlelearning.com, and I'm going to type that into the chat so that you can email me. I'll also be emailing out information to anyone who came to the webinar about links and things like that. Of course, the link to the App Store, now that we can download our app and you can use that, which is awesome. So I just want to say one more time, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you so much, Shawn. That was amazing to hear, especially from like one of our original people who was there from the very beginning. I really appreciate that. And I hope you guys have a warm and safe rest of the day. So thank you so much again for coming. So, all right.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Bye, guys.